Welcome to the Covert Narcissism podcast. I'm your host, Renee Swanson. I am not a therapist, and you are not a victim. Welcome to the Covert Narcissism podcast. I'm your host, Renee Swanson. And today I have a guest back that hasn't been here in a little while. You know, life just gets busy and we just haven't been able to coordinate that. But Eleanor Marks is back with me today. And Eleanor, thank you again for being here.
Thank you, as always, for letting me be here.
So I hope that life is treating you well these days. You know, we got some pretty fall time of the year coming in. I don't know about in your area, but we definitely have turned that corner here.
We got the leaves coming on the ground. Definitely. I'm looking out the window at my backyard full of leaves. Yeah. But you're doing a hike coming up.
I am. And it's with this fall weather, it's to take advantage of the turning of the leaves. So yes, we are doing our first ever hike and it's first of many more to come. Okay. But it's our first ever hike in person with people from the CNG community. It's in Rock Island State Park in Tennessee. It's a day hike. It's just, no overnights. You work out your own lodging if you're going to do overnights. It's a real simple little, day hike, but all day. Start in the morning, we'll hike, we'll come back and we'll have lunch, we'll hike another section, come back and have a fireside chat, and then call it a day. So
I'm going to ask what your definition of simple hike is. Give me mileage here.
Not the Appalachian Trail. So the mileage on this, I'm not even sure. I'll have to look back into that right now. So you've caught me off guard, but I'll get that on there. But the mileage is going to be, a couple hours of hike in the morning, and then in the afternoon, because we'll take our time with it. We're not going to rush people along and try to just cover distance. So it's more about the time in and chatting along the way and stopping and enjoying the waterfalls. And so mileage wise was not the concern. It was more the time.
And it holds you to simple.
Yes, it can hold me to simple. No rock climbing unless you want to. You can get off path and do some, rappelling or anything.
When are you doing this?
We're doing this October 27th, and people can still register. We do still have room. We're only taking 20. But we do still have space, and it is on the website at covertnarcissism.com. And then there's a sub menu. It's the events page. So covertnarcissism.com/events will get you there. But it's the only event listed there right now. But then 2025, it says to be announced.
Can I you said it was October 27th. And I remember, like, whenever I'm listening back in the olden days, listening to your podcast, you throw a date out or something. And I'm like, what year, though? What year? Oh, no. Am I too late? So it's this year, 2024, if anybody's listening in their car right now.
That's a good point. So thank you. Today we're talking about coercive control, and I'm going to hand it off to you to get it started, because this conversation's coming from a Facebook post.
Yeah, this was an anonymous post that somebody did. I'm going to say it's like about 4 weeks now. And she actually just started it off of, hey, Renee, this would be a great podcast on coercive control. So this anonymous poster, she writes, my love, commitment, and intention were forever doubted and questioned, making me feel like I was never enough, that I needed to try harder, and I did. I was repeatedly accused falsely of flirting and seeking men's attention, which had me feeling blindsided, confused, and hopeless, and ultimately had me doubting my reality. There was no amount of evidence or pleading my case that would change this. He had no evidence, just his imagination and incessant accusations. If I traveled with my family, I was treated like I was going and having affairs or going to seek the attention of men. These trips hurt him somehow, so he pulled his affection and time away, which felt punishing, destabilizing, and abandoning, making me dread family trips. Whatever I wanted to do, see, or experience, he was right there with me. He increasingly articulated feeling disrespected by my friends and my family, such that slowly I avoided social situations to avoid triggering him. I was riddled with anxiety when I walked across a restaurant floor because he would dissect my walk and count who looked at me. I could not look around a room without him assuming that I was looking at men, wanting to date or be with that person instead. I needed to keep my head down and keep my full attention on him always. she goes in to talk about what she could wear, couldn't wear, even though it was never said. She always knew with comments coming around afterwards of his approval or disapproval. And I just thought that her situation was at the heart of coercive control. And
Boy, that touches the heart. It
so
touches the
she,
heart. And so many elements of that just ring true in my past and in my, I mean, just listening to that, and it sends, goosebumps up the back of my neck.
there were a couple things that I found. I actually like Googled the actual definition of coercive control because like we think we know what it is, but like I'm like, what are they? What's Webster saying on it? Um, Coercive control is an act or a pattern of acts of assaults, threats, humiliation, and intimidation or other abuse that is used to harm, punish, or frighten their victim. Coercive and controlling behavior is at the heart of domestic abuse.
Wow. That's a good definition. And I do think that it's a pattern. I mean, you dive it right into that definition right there. They dive right in it, but it's a pattern. It's not a one-off. Everybody has one-offs. Everybody has, things that happen that we then reconcile. And we talk about this in the podcast all the time. But and somebody just recently, in fact, said to me, "Well, doesn't everybody have narcissistic traits?" And we're like, yes, but everybody also has empathetic traits. Like if you're going to go down that path, then you also got to say everybody's got that caring side. Could somebody, could I do something in a way that actually ended up coming across as coercive control to someone else unintentionally? Yes. But I also have that side of me that cares, that self-reflects, that is listening when they go, hey, this really, and so there's this counterweight to it, in essence. But when it's a pattern of repeated dominating and manipulating behaviors, then it just it really becomes that coercive control.
Yeah. I was thinking about this question. I mean, we've been kind of thinking about doing this podcast for a couple of weeks now, and of like, okay, what happens, if I wanted to try to convince Renee to go to this great pizza place, but she wants to go have Mexican food, and I like really push to go to my favorite pizza place. I'm like, oh, is that coercive control? I'm like, well, there's a difference in like gently trying to have somebody come with you, and it's a one-off, and but if I did it every time, then that's where you start to go into the areas where this is more likely abuse or that I'm trying to gain something from it or
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a perfect example because we all do a little bit of that where we go, I really want to go roller skating. I don't want to go, whatever. And so we start trying to, but if you come, we can do this, or we try to start manipulating people to come do the activities we want to do. Okay.
yeah.
But then there's going to be other times where they're the ones manipulating and where I'm the one going, no, this time we're going my way and and there's a balance. When
Yeah.
coercive control really comes into play is when there's a power imbalance. That power imbalance that puts this abusive person in a position of authority or dominance over the other.
I've been sitting with that definition for a while. Like it's been on my desk. I've read it a couple of times. And there were some other things that kind of popped up that didn't come into that definition. And you just, said it to gain and maintain power.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people wouldn't think of that as being like, well, who really wants to do that? Well, here we are on a podcast surrounded by people who have quite experienced that. And I think another part of that definition of that power and control is that they can be doing something for a reason that you don't even understand. Like, how many times have you heard, like, I don't even know why he lied about that? Like, it doesn't have to make sense to you of what their end game was, but that it still destabilized you, left you wondering. But there was still a motive in there to get something from you. And it didn't have to be any of those parts that were in that definition prior.
Right. And yes, it is. I mean, I guess one of the things I would ask and see what you think on this is what purpose does it serve to the perpetrator? What do they benefit?
I mean, it could make them look better, right? Or if they're trying to put you down, make you look uneducated, silly, whatever it might be. It puffs them up a bit.
It allows them to
Uh,
feel better about themselves
mhm.
by pushing you
Uh,
down.
I think we talked about this before. But isn't there also the part that we see in this that they do it for the sport of it? That there doesn't need to be, just do it because they can do it. And that alone makes them feel bigger, whatever,
Yeah, it's that
superior.
ego and that false self. But yeah, the covert narcissists are so competitive, so
Mm,
incredibly competitive, and they see everything as competition. And so seeing you succeed or being in a positive light, and maybe the world's looking at you as being successful, instead of enjoying that success with you, they undercut it, they sabotage it, they belittle it and dismiss it to keep knocking you down so that you don't get a spotlight that's higher than theirs.
yes. I think exactly what you just described there was probably one of the top things that I started to see the pattern in my own marriage. So much so that I I would tense up when somebody would come up to me and, "Hey, great job at this," or "I saw you did that," or whatever, and start praising me in front of my now ex-husband, because I knew I would have to kind of pay for it in some way later. And it became a game to build me up in the public, in front of people, and then behind closed doors, tear it all down.
Hmm.
And it was the pattern kept repeating and repeating and repeating. And like, oh my goodness, how did I not see this? how, it's blatantly right there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and the one of the goals for the abuser, or one of the purposes that it serves, is it actually strips you of your independence, your autonomy, your identity, your successes, and in so doing, it makes you completely dependent on them.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
now any success that you can feel is only their success.
yes,
Any happiness that you are allowed to experience is only because of them or through them. And so it kind of really puts you in a position of complete dependence on them.
yeah, they're in charge of the ceiling of where you can move from and feel, and if not, they squish it
Mhm.
down,
Mhm.
squish it
You
down.
you made a comment of you'll pay a price for it.
Mm,
If you took those compliments publicly, then you would pay a price. And I've made those kind of comments before, and people who haven't lived this, they're like, "What do you mean you pay a price?" Like, I've got a couple of good friends, and they've heard me talk that way, and they're like, "What do you mean you pay a price?" Because they can't comprehend this. There isn't prices to be paid in their marriage, thank God. But, how would you describe that to somebody who doesn't get it? What do you mean you're paying a price?
I mean, isn't it funny? We're both laughing here of like the paying a price, like you're Venmoing some money to somebody. It's you're going to pay the price by either like getting the silent treatment, the moodiness is going to come around in them. The next day, be prepared. Something's going to change the tilt world. Um, I just had a couple of clients that seems to be we're on a big streak of that convenient amnesia that they know, but all of a sudden it's I forgot. And it was something pretty big that they forgot. And so you are now paying the price to pick up for what they said they forgot. And you're like, I know they didn't forget. But
Yeah.
do you have any other ways you paid the
I
price?
mean, yes, you're right with the silent treatment or the sulking. The sulking was a big one
Looking.
for me, is he would just gloomy around the house and making a show of it to the point that you finally go, "Hey, are you okay?" Oh my word, I can't tell you how many times I would ask that. And asking that just exploded the room. hey, are you okay? Well, no, I'm not. I can't believe you ignored me when they were talking about how great and wonderful you were, and you didn't say anything about me. Then it all started, and it was all what you didn't do, what you didn't say, what you didn't give enough attention to me. And I helped you. I punched holes in those papers in that notebook. I'm like, oh my word. And so for me, it just was the opening of another circular conversation. I mean, that was my biggest price, was the circular conversations where I had to spend the whole evening then pumping him back up.
It gets exhausting, right? Trying to play 10 feet ahead.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you for those holes in the papers. Ooh, those are the best 3-hole punches ever. And
Yes.
and it's still not good enough. Still, it's gonna be down the r
Mm-mm.
you forgot about the staples too.
Yes. Yes.
Lordy.
I mean, and then what happens is you're in a future conversation, you're in public, and somebody gives you a compliment. And you're in your mind going, okay, what did he do? What did he do that I can, I got to deflect this towards him. And
Yeah.
so even when maybe the coercive abuse is not public, it's not right there. The person talking to you doesn't see it, but you know all the signs, you know what's coming at home. And so you start deflecting, going, oh, but you know what? He really helped me out. He stuffed all those envelopes for me. He really did. He spent an hour on this project that I'd spent like a month on. Okay, whatever. But he spent all this time helping me. And now I'm deflecting. And the person I'm talking to is thinking, what are you, crazy? Well, and I would get some of that. My own family would come to me and go, you really did a lot of work here. You don't give yourself enough credit for the work you did. And I'm on the inside going, I give myself all this credit. I get it. I know I spent all this time, but I don't want to pay that price. But how do you explain that to them? What a crazy situation.
The wall gets a little bit taller too of when you're kinda, like, praised in public like that, and, my ex would, jump on the, "Oh, you were, so proud. So, like, this is great. I couldn't believe it either. That's awesome." And so, right? So now your
Mhm.
story looks even more drastic when you try to say what goes on behind closed doors. Like, but he seems to, like, support everything you do and be
Yeah.
right there at your side. And you're like, "Oh."
And you're right. You're right. And saying that, yes, that's 100% what would happen. Is he would do the same thing and be like, "Oh, isn't she did so good with this, and I'm so proud of her." And he put his arm around me,
Yeah.
but then I pay the price at home. That's one of those learned good behaviors. It's narcissistic traits hiding behind learned good behaviors. I'm supposed to publicly show my support, but boy, you better wait till we get home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other great line that goes along with that I found in my Googling, coercive control is abuse hidden in plain sight.
Mhm.
And that it's happening right there. All those people kind of
Mhm.
saw the actions and yet
Yeah. Now that
it's
you've
there.
been through it, as we wrap this up, now that you've been through this, do you find it easier for you to identify it when you see signs of it in other relationships, other couples? Do you see those markers?
Well, yeah. I mean, right? I mean, all the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. You're like, oh boy,
Mhm.
what's this? This
Something's
doesn't look
off
good, feel
here.
good. Yeah.
Mhm.
Here we are again. Here's the pattern again. Um, Yeah, I mean, I think I see it a lot more in work situations too,
Yeah.
which, it's just not an intimate partner, um,
It's work partnerships.
scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Coworkers.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Do you see it a lot more?
I
Is it, like,
do.
kinda
I do.
everywhere?
I do. I see it and I'll see, couples that are maybe in our friend groups or at, my place of work where I've got these, family units that are there, and there's just, boy, they'll send my radar off. And I'm watching going, oh man, that's it's there. It's there. I can't pinpoint it. I can't describe exactly what their situation is because every situation is a little different, but you know it when it's there. But then the flip side of that is when I see the healthy and you really see the genuineness between a
Mhm,
couple, and I see that too, the difference is so clear.
mhm. We need like get a laboratory working on like a litmus test or something, or like a scanner gun of like, make it more obvious, because that's how we find ourselves in these relationships 10, 20, 30, 40 years. We're like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
man.
Well, I wouldn't trade the knowledge that I have. And I hate that I got it the way I got it, but I wouldn't trade the knowledge that I have. So,
Priceless.
all right. Eleanor, thank you once again for joining
Thank
us.
you.
I appreciate
Thank you.
it. And we'll put this podcast out in the Facebook group. Hopefully we can get it back to that post so that she knows that it got aired. So everyone out there listening, if you're in the Facebook group, and if you're not, jump in there and join us. It's Healing from Covert Narcissistic Abuse. And but we do take questions in those Facebook groups. We try to get them on the podcast here, or when we can't, we at least try to get them answered for you within the group. So feel free to jump in there and get some feedback from people about the situation that you are living. Anything else you want to say about the Facebook group?
No. If anybody's having issues, you can always come to me. I'm one of the lead moderators on it. Yeah. I want everybody to feel comfortable and get what they need from it.
It's a great community. Yeah. Very top-notch community. So, all right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you next time, Eleanor. And everyone out there, I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. You have been listening to the Covert Narcissism podcast. If you are struggling with covert narcissism in your life, I help people to heal from covert narcissistic abuse. If you are struggling with the isolation, the self-doubt, and the obsessive thinking, then this is the program for you. I offer both group and individual options. This is live, personalized coaching that is specific to covert narcissism. Reach out to me anytime. You can find me at my website, covertnarcissism.com. I'm not a therapist and you are not a victim. I am a coach and you are a survivor. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson and the Covert Narcissism podcast is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes and not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a healthcare provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. It does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support an allegation or a claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of the material and information provided.